for that introduction and welcome. Before we get started, do check that chat box if you need to download the handout, and um, let's jump right in. So when people ask me where to go in Europe for the first time, because a lot of people that I'm friendly with know that I love to travel, and particularly travel in Europe, and up and down the East Coast of our country as well. But when they ask me about Europe, I always say the first time, go to Florence. If not necessarily, London or Paris or Rome, although they're quite lovely, but Florence is a beautiful city. It's full of art and history and great food, and it's such a manageable city to get around. It's relatively small with just not a whole lot of people. It's a population about the size of Tampa, Florida. I think a lot more people have heard about Florence, Italy, than they have about Tampa, Florida. And in square area, it's only about 40 miles, roughly half the size of Boise, Idaho. It's pretty flat, as you can see from the picture there on the left. You can see, mountains way in the background, but you're not seeing rolling hills that much. It's very easy to walk around. And I'm very glad to have the opportunity to kind of virtually walk around some of these places with you tonight. Um, how to get there? Florence has a very small airport for such a famous city. There's only one runway and six gates. And by comparison, Reagan National has 59 gates. And this is the whole operation here. This is the whole airport. See, these are the six gates, and the green rectangle that you see there is a new roof that they've planted with grapes. Their their airport has a vineyard. It's a parking lot underneath it and some smaller buildings, but basically this is it, kids. So what does that mean for you? Well, really big jets can't fly in there. They can't you can't wedge themselves around these gates. It's just not feasible. And there's not enough demand to make it cost effective to fly a small jet there. So the plan B is take a regional flight to Florence or change of planes, which is ugh, that's a little tough. Um, and the regional airlines aren't bad. There's a lot of them that are pretty regular, almost commuters. Or take the train. I love the train. Um, Europe and particularly Italy is well connected by train. So if you want to, fly into Milan and take the train, fly into Rome, uh, it's about an hour and a half by train from Rome, and it costs about between $20 and $60 depending on the time of day you go. So with so many trains, it gives you a lot of flexibility in case your flight is delayed or the weather is bad. You can just take the train. Um, you could also change planes in London or Paris, but I try to avoid any connections on this side of the pond. It's just too dicey. Once you get over there, you've got a lot more options, particularly if you fly in and out of London. London's the closest place to where we are in terms of flying overseas. So it's the shortest flight, and you can get a lot of regional connections there. So that's a consideration. And you can stay a couple days in London on either end of the trip, which is kind of a way to get a good breather. And be aware, though, again, if you take the train, there are two train stations in Florence. It's we're used to having one big train station because we don't do as much train travel as a lot of Europeans do. So it's kind of a surprise when you get to some of their big major cities. I think Florence, Paris has, I think, seven major train stations, and you got to know which one you're going to, or you can wind up not where you need to be. And I've done that. Um, Fortunately, only once. That's when you start paying attention to these things. But there are two The primary one is the Stazione Firenze Santa Maria Novella. That's probably the one most people will go into, but there is another one on the far side of town that some other trains that are more closer on to, in the east, that will dump you off at this smaller one at the Campo de Marie. So just be aware of that. And getting around, walking. Oops, scusi. Florence is very walkable and pedestrian friendly, and I urge you to get a centrally located hotel, which is not hard to do affordably compared to a lot of other European cities. I like the area around Piazza Repubblica. That's really nice, and a friend of mine just got back and had a wonderful stay there. And everywhere you wander, I'm sorry, I'm having a little my computer's having a little mind of its own here. I do apologize. Um, Everywhere you go, just wander around. Like I said, small city, lots to see, and some of the things that you wouldn't normally catch your attention, just go in. Just go in. You don't know what you're going to find. Sometimes they'll open out in beautiful gardens or things you wouldn't expect. They also have a small bus system, but be aware that because the pedestrian area in the center of the city, or the center of the city is so pedestrianized and paved over, and cars and trucks are not allowed there except after certain hours to do deliveries and things like that. Um, but the buses can get you around the edges of the city. But I love guided walks. They're listed as being free, and they just expect kind of a tip at the end, whatever it was worth to you. And they're usually about an hour and a half. And I found a great website. A friend of mine uh, turned me onto it, and it's I just want to show you a quick screenshot here of Guru Walks. Um, this is now going to become my new go-to thing. It's a consolidator of all of the walking tours. There's no charge for any of these, and this is just kind of a way to see most of them that are available. And you can see from the slide here, there are, on this quick search that I did, there are 21 free tours available in Florence, and you can sort by where you want to be, what time of day, how many people, and it's the start times, and they have some of them are overlapping, but they have a lot of ones that are special interest, like the dark side of Florence, mysteries and legends, and just lots to offer. And here's just a tour description of one of them to give you an idea of how detailed there are, so you know what to expect and you know where you're going. So it's just a really good resource. If for taking in the sites, I mm, I recommend this Firenze card. It's I apologize. This mouse has a mind of its own. And you can hear it. Okay, well, we're just going to unplug that. I apologize. I went into darkness here because it's they're both on the same switch. But oop, yeah, I'm still here. Do, 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 do. There we are, the forensic card. It offers you reduced or free admission to a lot of museums. The reduced admission, of course, is probably on the bigger ones. They're not free. They got to make their money somehow. And what I like about it is they often feature smaller museums that are trying to promote themselves, and you can get in to see a lot of museums without doing the the great time suck museums at the Firenze, at the like the Uffizi, which you're probably going to want to do anyway. But if you're doing a lot of these smaller museums, it really makes a lot of sense. And there's lots of different ways you can get them. Now they do mostly online sales, which makes it really easy. You download it before you go. It's one less thing you have to figure out on the other end. And once you have it's on your phone, and it doesn't get activated until the first time you use it. So you can get it ahead of time. Once you're there, you can also get them at the airport and the tourist couple of the tourist centers as well. And what I like about it is not only does it give you attractions and museums, they also do events like there's one that offers a discount on Tuscan cooking classes and wine tasting and lots of other things that you might not otherwise think of. And oops. Oh, oh, this is a little, I apologize. This is a little, little tricky here. Um, well, let's start taking a look at some of the places that you might want to go. Here's kind of the lay of the land here. Um, um, Circled here is the airport, and in red, and you can see the distance to Florence. It's not very big. The bold lettering where it says Florence is where the kind of core section of town is. The Arno, the Blue River you see going west to east, and that is the way it flows, is kind of divides the city. And the part on the southern um, area below the Arno is called the Alt Arno. You can see that listed right to the lower left of the word Florence, the Alt Arno, or um, it's the translation is beyond the Arno. Or to me, I kind of use my own mnemonic that the Alt Arno is the alternative. It's on the other side. It is just as great to see. That's where the Pitti Palace is, and the Boboli Gardens, and one of the churches that I'm going to show you. So don't ignore that part. And speaking of churches, oh, getting a little echo. Okay. The star of the show of all of Florence is this famous must-see site that defines the skyline as much as a Big Ben or the Eiffel Tower or the Empire State Building. It's the Duomo, um, which is actually technically the Cathedral of Santa Maria de Fiore. But instead of making this a major stop, which of course you'll want to do anyway, just kind of, I would not spend a lot of time here, frankly, because inside is all the pews are gone, or at least they have been on the times that I've visited. Maybe they put them in for weddings and special events, but I don't think they do a lot of those because it's just such it's a they make their money off of tourism. But it is a beautiful thing to see inside. The dome there on the right is fantastic, and these are the main draws: the dome outside and inside, but not necessarily all the details inside. So give this a broad sweep. Don't I wouldn't spend a lot of time there, but instead go around the back of the church, as you can see indicated by the red dash line, and go outside to another museum called the Museo dell'Opera. And I've circled that location on the map there. And don't be confused by the title. This museum has nothing to do with opera. I don't know. I couldn't seem to find a good translation or reason why it's called the Museo dell'Opera. And on some of my early trips, back in the 90s, I dismissed it because I thought, oh, I don't want to go to an opera museum. But that's not it. It's dedicated to the preservation of the Duomo and the baptistry, which is right next to it. And I recommend starting off your visit. They've got a great video just as you enter that gives you a lot of context for about what you're about to see. And oh, by the way, this building has its own history. The main lobby was the original location where Michelangelo sculpted much of the statue of David, right there, because it's not too far from the Piazza Signorella, which is where it stood for many years. So he decided, okay, where can I find a workshop big enough and close enough so we don't have to haul this thing, all over God's creation, if you'll pardon the pun. um, so it's just a replica that's in the in the Signorina now. Anyway, this particular museum, the Museo dell'Opera, was reopened about 10, 15 years ago after a 2-year major renovation. And it now has 3 floors, pardon me, packed with many of the original artifacts, for which you currently see replicas around the city. The skylights are just a fantastic way to illuminate everything. And they're eco-friendly, and and they have no glare, and it lets in natural light, which is the best way, of course, to see art. Um, on there on the left are the famous doors of the baptistry, the building right next to the Duomo, and you can see the woman standing in front of it. These doors are massive, and they're made of bronze, and they're now located inside to protect them, and the replicas are on the side of the building. But it's just fantastic to be able to see them close up and cleaned, and so you can see them clearly. Because when you try to see them outside, the light isn't always right, or it's been a while since they've been cleaned, and you can't see the relief on them as closely. So it's amazing. And one of the things they've also done is the original statuary from the front of the Duomo has been replaced, and the originals are now here, but you could never see them before because they were way up there. And you're like, oh, I think that's pretty, and you couldn't see it. What they've done now is put them where they were before. I'm gonna try to plug this in for just a second to see if it behaves. Um, yeah. They put the statues up roughly at the height that they originally were, but they have you can't quite see it on the other side. They have floors like this, and the other side has a balcony, so you can look directly across and see them. And they've made this, not so wide that they're too far away now instead of being just too high. Just a lot of incredible thought has gone into these. And among the original works there are Michelangelo's Pietà, that he carved actually for his own tomb. And I love that even the scar, they call it a scar. He was frustrated with the way it was not coming out, and he took a hammer to it. And and uh, and later kind of rethought it, and yeah. But how someone can make this guy out of marble look like a human draped in fabric is beyond humbling. And you can get, as you can see, the people on the left, in the photograph there, you can get quite close to it. I found it just kind of thrilling. And back down on the main floor is a small and often unnoticed little plaque on the wall, to mark the high water mark of the flooding of the Arno in 1966. This major river going through the heart of the city flooded. It was epic. This charming little docent with this jaunty red blouse on underneath is pointing to it, giving you an idea of how deep the water was in this building, which is it's incomprehensible because this building is about 11 blocks inland from the river. And still that far inland, it was flooded this deeply. It's the photo on the right, of course, shows the actual flooding, and the view is looking north away from the Arno with the baptistry on the left and the door to the entrance to the Duomo on the right. Just I can't imagine that much water and everywhere, and so many precious things to rescue and salvage. There's a lot of interesting articles and even a few entire books on this horrific event, and I've included some links to those in the handout. Um, and it just it's an amazing little, not that little, but out of the way museum. And then don't forget that there's several other wonderful churches in Florence beside the Duomo. This country is profoundly Catholic, and you can't spit and not hit a church. And I these are a couple of my favorite lesser museums. They're not really lesser, as you can see on the left there. The little tiny splashes at the bottom, those are people. This is huge. We're not used to seeing churches on this magnitude in the United States as much. So I'm always floored when I go around the corner. And it's like, whoa, whoa. um, and despite its size, on the inside is, well, I wouldn't say cozy, but it has a very light feel. As you see on the right there, lots of tall windows that let in lots of natural light. And there's the ceiling is open beamed. There's no real roof on it. No vaults that you see with columns in a lot of these churches. It's just breathtaking. Um, there are shallow, open side, what they call chapels. We think of chapels sometimes as a separate building or structure, but they're really like little niches on the left and right that contain tombs or monuments, including Dante Alighieri, Michelangelo, Rossini, Machiavelli, um, Leonardo da Vinci, Galileo. That's his tomb there on the right. Notice that the angels flanking him and he himself are looking skyward to the heavens, that he studied so much. And he's holding a little telescope in his right hand and resting his head on an orb, like the planets that he viewed through the telescope. They put a lot of thought into this, and no small amount of money. The front of the church has beautiful frescoes and murals by Giotto and others, very, very famous. And my favorite was a set of 20 different scenes from the life of St. Francis. And there's an example there on the left. You can see some of the wear and tear on the left edge there, that time has taken its toll. And more frescoes there on the right are in the walls of the sacristy, where Michelangelo, actually on that table in the center, laid in state when he died. This room also has on display a bunch of religious relics, little bits and pieces of saints, including a scrap from Saint Francis's tunic, um, allegedly. And this church too was not spared. It's actually a little closer to the river, and it's just unbelievable how much damage it suffered during the floods. The photo on the left shows how high the water was at one point, and the figure on the right is a model that they did of what the church and the cloister must have looked like at the height of the flood. And notice how the water is actually deeper in that cloister on the right. Um, the walls inside effectively acted like the walls of a swimming pool, and the water couldn't go anywhere. It couldn't drain. It just filled right up, and it was trapped. And the effect of this much water and moisture on those frescoes, on the murals, on all the art that's there, it's just heartbreaking. And that's now that it was immediately restored as best they could. But it just makes the inside of the church just miraculously beautiful. Um, and here's a brief little overview of the church by Rocky Ruggiero. He does a lot of these, and he has his own YouTube channel with 171 videos about history, art and architecture of Italy. And he also lectures for Smithsonian Associates. So I do recommend that. We're just going to take a little bit of this. Let me see if I can get this. Just one second.
The Basilica of Santa Croce was constructed beginning in the year 1294.
Oops. Having a little bit of trouble here.
The Basilica of Santa Croce was constructed beginning in the year 1294 during a massive urban renewal program here in the city of Florence. And in fact, this church is the second largest in the city and the largest Franciscan church in the entire world. Now, the facade of the building is actually 19th century and neo-Gothic and disguises the 14th century Gothic church behind it. Now, the inside of this church was Renaissance, just like Santa Maria Novella, the whitewash covering up the original 14th century frescoes and the rood screen that once divided the clergy from the laity removed as well. But Santa Croce is home to some of Florence's most important artistic treasures. Frescoes by the great Giotto, a wooden crucifix by Donatello, but its most celebrated feature is in fact the collection of celebrity tombs that are located inside. The tomb of Michelangelo, the great sculptor, painter, and architect. The tomb of Galileo Galilei, the physicist, astronomer, and mathematician. The tomb of Niccolò Machiavelli, the father of political science. The tomb of Gioacchino Rossini, the great composer. The tomb of Lorenzo Ghiberti, the great goldsmith and sculptor and author of the most famous doors in the world, the Gates of Paradise. But not the tomb of Dante Alighieri. In fact, that large structure that you'll see inside is a cenotaph, or funerary monument to the great poet whose body rests in the city of Ravenna. So don't be fooled, because when you walk into Santa Croce, it seems like anyone who's played a part in history is actually buried here.
Well, there's a little bit more to it, but I'm going to move on here, and the link to that video is in the handout. One of the reasons that I'd like to hit this church, which he mentioned in his spiel, is Santa Maria de Novella. I like to go visit here because you get a twofer. Not only do you get a church, you get a little something else. The church looks a lot like Santa Croce because it was that same urban renewal project helped rebuild the front of this. But what's it's not unique because it was very commonly used at that time, but what distinguishes this church is that's really green and white marble mixed together. The craftsmanship is just wild. It's so unusual. It's once you go around the corner and you see it, it's like, oh. The picture on the left doesn't do the color justice, but it gives you an idea of the size. And inside, the interior is equally as captivating. You can see these arches decorated with the green and white marble, and inside paintings. It's almost a who's who of the Renaissance and Mannerist artists. Brunelleschi, who did the dome of the Duomo, Paolo Uccello, Girandao, and Fra Lippi, just to name a few. Probably the most famous work here is there on the right, Masaccio's fresco of the Trinity. God the Father supports Christ up from above, and the Holy Spirit in the form of a dove is above his head. Um, I, it's aesthetically so peaceful, but artistically, it was a breakthrough at the time because Byzantine art had been so flat with it almost looked like paper a paper collage that showing the depth, the perspective was really unusual. You can see there in the top in the what looks like a barreled vault going into the um, receding into the horizon. That nobody had done anything like that before. We take for granted the perspective in art now, but this was brand new and really caused a bit of a stir. And in art history textbooks, this is one of the first things that you see when they start talking about a linear perspective. Um, Really breakthrough. Another important thing here is a chapel funded by the Strozzi family, who were rivals of the Medicis and pretty much ran Florence in the day with the Medicis. They commissioned frescoes by Frau Lippi to spruce up the little chapel, the little chapel on the side here, um, that they donated for their family's remains. The profusion of work in this little, vestibule, just three-sided chapel, is amazing. It's virtually wallpapering the space, and the brilliant colors are still dazzling. And the blue, for example, you can see a little bit kind of down here in this spot and other spots. The blue is really crushed lapis lazuli. They spared no expense on this one. Um, and the cloister next to the church also has a remarkable work of art, actually a series of frescoes by um, by Paolo Uccelli, and just marvelous to see all of these. Everywhere you go, you can walk around and follow the stories all around the cloister. And oh, by the way, a group of Dominican friars still lives here. So it's very much still, and I don't know how active it is, but it's a happening place. And here's the twofer part: the Officina Profumo Farmaceutica di Santa Maria Novella. It's the world's oldest pharmacy. Now, it's not a pharmacy like we think of it today, but in the 1500s, it was the brainchild of an apothecary and scholar who cultivated medicinal herbs and made products that were exported all over the world, even in those early days. 500 years later, they are still peddling their herbs and perfumes and soaps. Yeah, and you can tour parts of the old um, shop and enjoy the new shop. They do a brisk business in teas, potpourri, alcoholic and non-alcoholic elixirs, and especially for the men, a fantastic shaving cream, crema de barba, the cream of the barber. There on the left, which I buy for my brother-in-law whenever I can. Um, FYI, there's also stores in New York, Los Angeles, and Boston, and Miami. Ugh, wonderful, but sad a little bit too. And seeing it there is just one amazing thing. And you can still buy the original perfume blended for Catherine de' Medici when she was getting married to Henry II of Navarro. She wanted something a little special for the occasion, and she had them whip up what's still called the Acqua della Regina, the water of the Queen, the Regent. Um, and there's a bottle of it there on the right that'll set you back $180. Let me just run that by you again, $180. But it's to each his own. And even with all the modern technology, online sales, and global distribution, the old world essence still comes through as you walk through the, uh, the pharmacy. And there's a little bit of a presentation here I'm going to go to. Let me see if I can do this.
Everything in Florence is a cut above, and we mean almost everything.
Hold on just 1 second. I'm trying to get the controls up here.
Just off Piazza Santa Maria Novella, where a church of the same name has stood since 1360, sits another sort of cathedral. It may not look like it from the outside, but inside, it's truly a thing of beauty. It's just amazing. It looks like it's part of the church. There are, beautiful statues and murals and all the beautiful smells. Just fabulous beauty. Santa Maria Novella Pharmacy is thought to be the oldest apothecary in the world.
Oh, very good one.
Pharmacy director Gianluca Foa says it dates back to 1221, when its Dominican monks began experimenting with alchemy. A century later, they came up with a product made from roses they hoped would defeat the Great Plague, which killed an estimated 60% of Europe.
They thought that distilling these petals, they could create an antiseptic useful to fight the plague, but of course it didn't work.
But it did work as a beauty product, rose water, which has been used as a face tonic for the past 800 years. The pharmacy's tradition of innovation didn't stop there. The monks were the first to use alcohol in perfume. They created a liqueur to help numb pain in childbirth, and aromatic vinegar.
This is used to prevent the faintings. So it's very strong, but oh.
Novella's garden produces plants and flowers.
I'll let you watch the rest of the video perhaps on your own. There's a link to that in the handout. And just in the interest of time, I want to kind of jump ahead here a little bit. The Santa Maria del Carmine. This is an excellent example of when you're wandering, you never know what you're going to see. This church looks like nothing, from the outside. They weren't considered part of that urban redevelopment because this church is on the Altarno, the alternate side of the Arno and on the South Bank, which is the area where most of the artisans and workers live. So it's not surprising that it appears much more humble. But you've got to check this out. The inside, there's lots of beautiful things. Who would suspect there on the left? That's inside of that little, rugged looking, rough looking exterior. And there's beautiful carvings and chapels full of stuff. But the big draw for this relatively humble church is called the Bernacchi Chapel. The Bernacchi family sponsored this chapel in the late 14th century, and it had it sumptuously frescoed from the three top fresco artists at the time. And the result is 3 solid walls of frescoes that depict 12 different Bible stories, all featuring scenes from the life of St. Peter. And it's really amazing. You can get quite close to it. On the left here, you can see these little stairs. You can climb up the 3 little stairs, but you can't actually go inside the chapel. But it all comes with an iPad-like audio and visual guide that you can zoom in and zoom out. It's an excellent tool, a great way to understand what's going on in all of the different images. And you can click to get more information. One of the most effective tools. Here's some of the images that are there. To the far left, kind of the very beginning, is Adam and Eve, and Eve looks like, oh, I've just made the biggest mistake of my life. And the tribute money in the center, and the healing of the cripple on the far right. There's so much more to talk about with. I just did a lot of churches, but it's the heart of Florence. But there's more. So everyone believes they must see the Uffizi in terms of the arts and sciences of this area, which is true. It has some of the most precious works of art in the world. Um, but it's as a lot of shoe leather involved in the works. You've got to plan what you is important for you to see and limit yourself. Just maybe every other room or whatever, see what's important to you because you just kill yourself. And I put the information about the Uffizi in the handout as well. But some things that you might want to see that haven't been available very long is they've recently opened the what they call the Vasari corridor, named after a famous uh, documenter of the histories of the lives of the um, famous artists at the time. And he designed this corridor which connects the Uffizi, which was the office space, Uffizi office space for the nobility of the day, and it connects it to the Pitti Palace, where the Medici lived, their home across the river. So they wouldn't have to walk along with the riffraff. They could walk along this yellow border um, hallway, and it went right across the river there. It tops. It's kind of the top story, if you will, across the Ponte Vecchio, and it hasn't. It's maybe been opened maybe 8 years or so. It's a relatively new feature, um, and you can walk in it now, and it dumps you out on the other side in the Boboli Gardens. Um, Another place to check out, Strozzi Palace. Um, this was this was their home, a pretty nice digs there, and its current claim to fame is as the largest temporary exhibition space in the city, run by an anonymous foundation. And the Strozzi, as I mentioned earlier, were longtime rivals with the Medici's for the banking dynasty, and he wanted to build a bigger house, which he did. Um, um, Despite the relative size, it doesn't have a particularly opulent entrance. The entrance there is just kind of in the center there. Let's see. If you follow the rows of trees from right to left, you'll see you come to the end of the building. And the center door there, that's the entrance. Very unusual, at least to me. It's a little bit deceptive. And but it is massive. Inside, some of the special exhibitions there included one that I attended a couple of years ago is just unusual collections of things. It's not your everyday, okay, here's impressionists, or here's this or here's that. It's unusual combinations of things. This particular one that I saw, the title of it was Divine Beauty, and it featured lots of different things on the themeness of divineness, ranging from on the far left there, a Van Gogh crucifixion, and you can see it's kind of a self-portrait there too. And in the middle, a Matisse-inspired clerical robe, and on the far right there, a modern, seated girl in prayer. It's amazing. And next, coming up in March, is a retrospective of the American modern artist Mark Rothko, and that this covers the gamut there. That's why I always check and see what's playing there. And in addition to the special arts exhibits, concerts are a big draw here too in the courtyard. And even if there's nothing going on here, the courtyard is amazing, and there's a great little restaurant there. So pop in, sit a spell, as I did, and just catch your breath and enjoy the view. And to cover the sciences portion of the topic, housed in a medieval castle on the Arno called the Palazzo Castellini, is this 17-room museum, not huge, but it has a lot in it. It emphasizes the history of all the sciences, not just the ones that Galileo dabbled in. And this entire um, uh, museum was seeded with artifacts from the Medici collections. They were famous for promoting the sciences as well as the arts. There's astronomical instruments, um, instruments used for calculating longitude, and medical instruments, and lots of other um, uh, medical, technical innovations and inventions. In the rooms that focus specifically on Galileo are several instruments that he actually used, including on the left there, a telescope given to him personally by Cosimo de' Medici. Pretty interesting there. And he also constructed many of his own pieces of equipment, including compasses like you see on the right. Um, I don't know if you learned how to make that in shop class, or how he came to do those, but to think about that you're looking at something that has touched his hands is amazing. And here's another great example of handwork and artwork that's amazing. This is my absolute favorite museum in Florence, and among kind of my top 10 in all of Europe. It's called the Officio della Pietre Duri, essentially painting durable. And it's all mosaics of precious stones. Um, it now it's mostly a museum, but it was originally a workshop founded by the Medici, who reputedly invented this technique of creating mosaics out of precious stones. And they loved it so much they staffed a whole workshop, and you can see this beautiful craftsmanship on the main floor. You can see examples of it, and on the top floor, this one example, it's a portrait of Cosimo de' Medici, and you can see the detail, how they found the exact piece of precious material that was marbled in such a way that it would fit perfectly there. I don't get it. It's just amazing. Here's another detail that I just had to show you. Amazing. And don't forget to go upstairs. There are displays about the different types of rocks that they used, gemstones, I should say, and how the operation was still set up. You can see in the center there are desks or stations, tool stations that are facing the windows for the light, and those same desks are still there on the right. Great, and they got a pretty good gift shop too, and you can see some. I don't want to say knockoffs, but a more humble and affordable pieces that you might want to take home. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to show you this video, but feel free to take a look at it on your own. So let's get out of the museums and get a good stretch of the legs here in some outdoor spaces. The Boboli Gardens, of course, are world famous. They're essentially the backyard of the Medici's Pitti Palace, and are just sumptuous. I particularly love the mix of manicured and wild flora and fauna there. That you can see the manicured example on your left, and a little more, less structured there on the right. Consider grabbing a bottle of vino, a loaf of pane, and some formaggio, and wandering around until you find just the right corner to plop yourself down and enjoy those things. And for something a little more off the beaten path, check out the Giardino dei Semplici. This is a garden of simple things, and it's now part of the University of Florence. It was created again by, you guessed it, the Medici family, as a garden of medicinal plants in 1545. It's the third oldest botanical garden in the world. It has over 4 million specimens, including some collected by Charles Darwin on his voyage, first voyage on the Beagle, and it's spread over 60 acres. The outdoor paths have different food plants, flowers, a Zen garden. It's really a very peaceful place, and comfortable place. Thoughtfully, the pathways are innovatively designed to be both easy to navigate and accessible, including sensory, tactile, and olfactory and smelling paths for the blind. Just lots of different ways to enjoy this garden, and those things are important to me. And again, here's a video. Um, Check it out. It's hard to believe that this place, these beautiful gardens, are right in the heart of the city, just off of Piazza San Marco. Um, or consider, I kind of like this one. It's kind of a scrappy little garden right on the south side banks of the Arno River. The Terzo Giardino, a terrace garden, if you will. And it's has beautiful stone benches and a unique kind of garden full of the unexpected there. The on the lower right there is a crocodile and I guess kind of a deer. They're just made out of driftwood. Just kind of quirky and a different place when your eyes are so full of art and history. It just get outside and look at something really amazingly creative. And food and shopping. Who can talk about any place in Italy without talking about the food? Um, and I usually don't include a segment on these in the presentations because restaurants and shops can change hands and it's just too unpredictable. But in Florence, establishments, and particularly the ones I've selected to share with you, have a lot of staying power. Like that, the Pharmacia at Santa Maria Novella has been around for 500 years. These probably haven't been around quite as long, but they're still pretty reliable. Um, Il Pizzaiola is a very locals place. In fact, locals took me here the first time I went, and I try to get back to here every time I'm in the hood. What can I say? Phenomenal Neapolitan pizza. Um, the pizza from the south, from Naples, but they do it up here in the middle of Italy just fantastically. And you can watch them in the brick oven, like you see on the right, and just great atmosphere, great service. Again, a link in the handout. And for a little bit more upscale, but still casual, I love this gem right on the Piazza del Mercato in a very central location. The restaurant has been here under single ownership for 50 years. That's some staying power. And it's mostly an 18th century building with arches and niches. It's very visually interesting as well as the food and the service are excellent. And they have little tiny bottles of olive oil that you can buy and make really great souvenirs. I bought a couple of 3 packs. And gelateria, Italy and gelato. Yeah, this one, the Vivoli Gelateria, has been in Florence for over 70 years, and it's a great place. I recommend both the fruit flavored gelatos, like the lemon and the strawberry, which are more sorbet like. And I also like the creamier gelatos. Stracciatella, which is chocolate chip, is one of my favorites in this category. For something a little different, with 2 locations, by the way, is this outfit. They have some really inventive flavors like honey and lavender ice cream and a Chianti sorbet, and they make awesome crepes too. And in the handout, I've also included a link to an article on the best places to eat gelato in Florence, complete with a printable list and a map. I try a different one every day. And this place is just a lot of fun. Al Antico Venaille is a little hole in the wall deli, no seating, just they have a line usually outside the door. Don't worry about the line, it goes fast. And this is a great thing to do. The monster size sandwiches on super tasty bread called schiacciata, which is native to Florence and is salted, unlike most Italian breads. It's really fantastic. And as you can see on the far right, I took that picture. the people that run the place are just a hoot. It's partly a show as well as a fantastic sandwich. They've it's amazing things, and you kind of almost like Subway. You pick and choose. I want that and that and that with that on top. They even have a truffle cream on top, and skip the mayo, folks. You can get all sorts of wonderful things. And to eat it, you're going to have to walk around a little bit, find a little bit of a green space, or it's maybe a cup of squat on some church steps. It's amazing. And again, sadly, in the interest of time, but really watch this video. There's some snippets here, just mouth watering. And it's about 8 minutes long. You want to watch the whole thing. It's drool worthy. Um, Markets are much more than a place to just shop. They're important hubs of social connectivity in the community, and there's plenty of them. A big central one, but one of the kind of out of the way ones is this Mercato di San Ambrogio. It's the oldest one in Florence, and it's been active since 1873. They have indoor shops. You can see there in the left and middle, and outdoor kind of pavilions with outside vendors, everything from fresh meat and produce, sewing notions and socks. Go early in the day. They're open every day except Sunday from 7 a.m. to 2. And usually by about 1:30, they're booking out of there. So this is an early one, 7 to 2. And another old guard food stop is this Sulumeria. It's a little store specializing in salami. That's why they call it Salumeria. It's well patronized by folks in the neighborhood, and they have a marvelous selection of meats and cheeses and olive oils and balsamic vinegars. And it just a small tin of olive oil is again a wonderful little souvenir. And while you're there, you can also take an Italian cooking class or olive oil tasting. Lots to offer there. And just kind of across the street, actually, is this store of art supplies. And it's been selling art supplies to Florence's artists for centuries. They don't know exactly how long, but at least back to the 1300s. And they supply all of the paints and tools for the restoration of so many of the artworks in Florence. And they also have stuff, of course, for modern artists. And this place is sought out by artists from all over the world to get their supplies. And on the far right is a picture of the left-handed artist's palette, which I got from my father-in-law. The thumb hole and the curves are placed a little differently. It's just a fun place to kind of browse. And this place kind of quirky. Quarcioli e Locurina. I think two men's last names. It's a great underwear, lingerie, and sock store for men and women with extremely personalized service. It really didn't. When I first went in, I really didn't know what to do because the counters are bare when you walk in, and all you see are these blank boxes behind this, as you can see by this gentleman who helped me pick out some socks. They ask you questions about what you'd like. I want knee socks. I want crew socks, men's, women's, spots, ladybugs on them, whatever. They have just an amazing assortment, and you can see just a few things out there on the counter. The goods are extremely high quality in whatever fabric you choose. The Italians don't do, the Europeans don't do trendy things and that go out of style. They buy few clothes and they last forever, and they need high quality. And it's every possible combination. And I bought myself a pair or two and some for some friends. And now that you've seen all the churches, the synagogues, the museums, the gardens, and bought some socks, and got some gelato, I'd like to hear what your plans might be for going to Florence, or your experiences have been, or what questions or comments you may have.
Barbara, can I ask a question?
Of course, yes.
So my husband and I just booked a Viking River cruise in end of August, September, and we're going to do from Amsterdam to Basel, Switzerland. And then we want to do, we're very questioning whether to do like Lucerne and stay in the Switzerland area, or whether we take the train and head on into Florence, through Milan or however that all works. We're still trying to figure out the details. But between like Lake Como, Florence, Cinque Terre, what would your thoughts be on that?
I wouldn't go as far south as Cinque Terre.
Okay.
I, I I don't, I enjoy traveling, but I don't enjoy my travel time that's spent getting from point A to point B.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, I would double check the distance by train from Lucerne to Florence, and um,
It's like an 8-hour train ride.
yeah, that's going to be that choose one day out, one day back. That chews up two of your days.
Hmm.
I wouldn't go that far afield. I would really, really dig in to what's in the Lucerne area and Basel, and just I. In order to get a true taste of the country, it's not like those movies from the 60s of, if it's Thursday, it must be Rome. Just stay put, sink yourself into it, find where the locals go, and enjoy that
Mm.
part of the country.
Yeah.
That's my very partisan, very personal um, experience. I don't like to go, bebopping from place to place to place, and it's going to be, hard enough. Did you get a direct flight into Lucerne?
No, we would be getting off the ship or the boat in
Oh, that's right.
Basel, and we would just drive down or take a train to Lucerne, and just stay there for 4 or 5 days. Perfect.
Do that, or no, 4 or 5 days. Go to Lucerne and do that, or stay in Basel and do 4 to 5 days.
Okay.
Either way, but don't spend, particularly if it's only 5 days you have left, you spend two of them on the train,
Right.
or recovering from the train,
Right.
or recovering from your cruise. Um,
Yeah.
after the cruise, and you've been in all these different ports and sit your butt down and enjoy what's offered right in front of you.
That's what
Um,
my husband's saying. He said we need to chill at that point. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Your mind's going to be saturated, and enjoy this one place.
Hmm.
I've Now that I have more opportunities to travel, I tend to travel for longer periods of time,
Hmm.
and stay really in one place.
Yeah.
I usually try to find a hotel that has a little kitchenette, and
Okay.
and just really hunker in the bunker. Eat
Yeah.
locally, shop the local grocery store, eat breakfast when I want to, have a midnight snack when I want to.
Right.
Um, yeah, and some of this I will also be covering, this upcoming presentation in February on enjoying time in Europe, traveling in Europe.
Okay.
And these are a couple of things that I like to do, is just stay for a good long stretch and get to know the area.
Good. Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else got some thoughts, concerns, interests? Anybody? Bueller? Well, if not, it gets it's this is like when the microwave popcorn gets to the end and starts to go from poppity 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 to pop pop, and you know it's about to burn. So,
Done.
so let's sign off before it starts to burn. If you think of anything else, um, Beth has my contact information. I'd love to hear from you and help you with any of your upcoming travel plans or adventures.
And just to note, Barbara will be back on February 25th with that European travel session. If you want to join us, definitely.
Yeah, it's got tips on security, your own personal security while you're
Mhm.
there, and how to find a good restaurant, and um, yeah, just um, a lot of the basics of getting around, cash versus credit cards in different places and different countries. Um, some countries prefer cash, some countries no cash. Um, in Sweden, in Stockholm, no cash, no cash. I tried to buy a postcard. It was 85 cents, and they made me put it on a credit card because they don't deal with cash. Um, and yeah, and Berlin is the other way. They much prefer cash. I
And
can't explain it, Lucy.
Barbara, how do we go back and access YouTube videos that you've done before? I've done two of yours back in April of 23 on European travel, and it was so informative, and I wanted to be able to go back and watch them again.
Um, I don't know if Beth, if they were putting them on your YouTube channel back then.
Yeah. Uh, I think anyone that you have done should be on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
And if not, there were two that I did kind of sister programs. One was preparing for
Yeah.
European travel, and one was actually that the first one goes all the way up to the time where you're at the airport leaving.
Yeah.
The second one is called Enjoying European Travel, and it
Okay.
picks up where you've landed in that country,
Mhm.
and goes until you're packing for your return trip. That's the one that I'm going to be doing again in February.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so you can take it again.
Actually, as I'm scrolling through, I'm just scrolling through, and I think I'm counting right now 5 on our YouTube channel of yours.
Perfect.
I
Perfect.
okay. I think I think I have done 5. Uh,
Okay.
I think yeah, the two on European travel, coastal Virginia and
Mm-hmm.
um Asheville. I think I can't remember off the top of my head,
Okay.
but yeah, I reached out, and I love to. Oh, as you can tell, I love to offer and suggest and tell stories and hopefully make each person who wants to travel in Europe have the best possible experience they have.
Richmond.
Richmond.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you also present for Oasis, right?
Yes, yes. And I'll be dropping off some catalogs in the not too distant future in the um
Spear Hall.
Spear Hall. Yes, thank you. They've got some great programs coming up, and I'm signing up for some in the summer session as well. Um, Possibly Charleston, off the beaten path, Charleston, and Philadelphia again for them. I've done over 30 programs for them. So this, if there's someplace you want to know about, let Beth know, and maybe I can help you out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That'd be a great guide.
there's about 2/3 of them are European, about 1/3 of them are mid-coast Maine, Philadelphia, the Brandywine Valley. Oh, I think I did the Brandywine Valley for you guys as well, maybe. Um, uh, yeah, and kind of mentally, I'm going down the
Yes.
coast of Boston.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I just would just love helping fellow travelers. Any other thoughts, concerns, questions? Okay, well, I guess that, oh, Alicia, do you have, your video just popped on. I wanted to see if you had any questions.
No,
Okay,
that's all interesting. We've only been to one place in Europe, so
where was
we've still
that?
got Scotland.
Oh,
Yeah, and we loved it. So we're looking forward to going to Ireland, England, and Italy for sure.
yeah. Well, I've done 3 different presentations on London. It's just, London has like 547 museums, and I'm sure by the time I'm done talking, they'll be at 548. Uh, th- um, I haven't been to all of them, and I want to go. And my file of things I want to do the next time I'm in London, despite the fact I've been there quite a few times, is very thick. And perhaps that, I can be of assistance there. And I've also been to um, uh, Glasgow just once, and Edinburgh a couple of times. I can't remember exactly how many,
Mhm.
but I loved it.
Yeah.
But also a lesson in not changing planes on this side of the pond. I had originally had plans to fly into Edinburgh and spend a week in Edinburgh, and then take the train to Glasgow, spend a week there, and fly out of Glasgow. Well, I missed my connection through no fault of my own, in New York. Um, Transferring out of New York is just horrible. It's just horrible. And any a pilot or airline personnel will tell you that the airspace in New York, with all the major and minor, including the Islip Airport, um, the airspace is just so saturated they cannot reliably move traffic through that area. It's just a nightmare. So I always try to go on the other side. Anyway, I missed my connecting flight, and I was able to, sit there in the airport and rearrange my entire trip, because trying to get to Edinburgh is not it's not a common thing.
Right, right.
It was like waiting till the next day, or I could fly here and take a train, and they would try to work with me with options. But what I decided to do was flip my itinerary, because I could get, in relatively a few hours, a flight to Glasgow
Mm,
and spend the first week in Glasgow and the second week in Edinburgh. You got to be flexible when you travel, and
yeah.
that is what I did. And I'm sitting there in the airport, peka, and changing my hotel for for a different city. So lessons learned, and you only learn the hard way, and every mistake makes you a little bit smarter.
Well, looking forward to it.
I strongly encourage you to hop on the next bus, plane, train, and explore.
Yeah.
And on that note,
Sounds good.
I will bid
Thank
you
you.
a fond adieu, a Wiedersehen, ciao.
Good night.
Thank you,
Thank
Beth.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barbara.
My pleasure, as you can tell.